My name is George Hatcher. I'm a 94-year-old Army Air Corps veteran of World War II. I'm the commander of the East Tennessee chapter of the American Ex-Prisoners of War. The story that I will tell you is true. I just graduated from Unicoi County High School in the class of 1940. I volunteered for the Army Air Corps. I was assigned to the 8th Air Force, flying B-17 bombers, and we put 100 hours on the B-17, flew it overseas to Bangor, Maine, Iceland, Ireland, and England. On the 27th day of May, 1944, 10 days before the D-Day, I was awakened at 3 o'clock in the morning to get ready to go on a bombing mission, my fourth. It was raining and foggy. I boarded a covered GI truck and went to the mess hall, where I ate a hearty breakfast of powdered eggs, gravy biscuits, and coffee. I remember very well because it was the last sit-down meal I would have for almost a year. We went to briefing, and we were told that we were going to bomb oil refineries and railroad marshalling yards deep inside Germany. As we crossed the English Channel into France, we began to encounter heavy artillery fire, and the sky was full of flak. B-17s were catching fire going down. There's 3 B-17s caught fire very close to me. I tried to count the parachutes, hoping I would count to 10, but most of the time it was far less. We were then attacked by a large group of German fighter planes. They shot 2 of our engines out. The navigator got 3 bullets in his shoulder. The co-pilot got a 20 miller through his arm and through his leg, and they shot the oxygen system out, damaged our plane very badly. We got 2 direct hits in the bomb bay, very close to me. A piece of shrapnel struck me on the right side of the neck, knocking me unconscious. When I woke up laying on the floor, I could look through a big hole in the plane, and I could see the right wing. All the metal in the right wing was blown away, exposing 2 gasoline tanks, and they were on fire. That was the side of the plane where the door was. We had to bail out through the door. I'd never bailed out before. I had a job to do. We were told that when the gasoline tanks catch fire, about 20 seconds is about all the time you have. But I had to destroy the radio, which I did. I had a flimsy, I was a radio operator, and I had a flimsy, which is a secret code that changed every 24 hours. It was encased in highly inflammable, like cellophane. I set it on fire and burned it up. Then I began to find my parachute. It was under some tuning units. I put my parachute on, tied my GI shoes to my belt, and ran through the fuselage back to the right waist to bail out. When I got back there's 2 gunners standing in the door, afraid to bail out. I know, but they hadn't seen the gas tanks. So I nudged them a little bit, and it didn't do no good. So I backed up. I'd played football for UCHS. I backed up and made a run and go, and all 3 of us went out the door at the same time. And I looked at my watch. It was 1:30 in the afternoon. We'd been yelling and shooting there for 7.5 hours. And when the plane went off and left us, it was very quiet. I said, I closed my eyes and prayed, thank God that I was still alive. When I hit the ground, I hit very, very hard, much harder than I expected. I was taking my parachute harness off when I heard a voice behind me I couldn't understand. I didn't know what they said. I thought it might be the Free French we'd heard, that sometimes they get to us before the Germans do and help us get through the lines back home. But I kept, when he hollered at me, I kept taking my parachute off, and then I heard him work the mechanism on his rifle. And I knew what he was talking about then. I put my hands up, and he came over and asked me, did I have a pistol? I said no. And he asked me, was I American, English or American? I said American. And then there's 2 of them got a hold of it. There was 3 Germans with rifles. One got hold of one arm, one the other, and the other was gouging me in the back, and we double timed it off the hill, not very far, a quarter of a mile to a small town. When we got to the small town, it was a brick street. The sun was shining, very warm, very hot, 27th day of May. Both sides of the street was covered with people. They had clubs and they were yelling insults and calling me a Luftgangster or a swine. And I was getting very nervous. There's one big German standing in the middle of the street alone. They pushed me right up to him, and he began to try to hit me with his fist. And I started jerking the guard that was holding me back and forth, trying to keep him off balance, which I done a pretty good job. He didn't get very many solid licks on me. But then they took me, finally, he got out, they finally took me and put me on a GI truck and took me to the top of the mountain where the artillery battery that shot us down was manned by the Hitler Youth. Meantime, they had looked at my navigator, who was Jewish. His dog tags had an H on it for Hebrew. We asked him, tried to get him to change it before we left America to go overseas, and he didn't want to do that. But they took us to the artillery battery, and he was unconscious, moaning, and I tried to put a bandage on his throat where the Germans had cut his throat. And the Germans worked me over with the butt of the rifle, wouldn't let me put a bandage on it. And he died on the truck before we got back. We went to the artillery battery, and the Hitler Youth were jubilant. They were laughing and having a good time because they just made a big kill, I guess. They took me back down the hill off the mountain on the GI truck, on the flatbed truck, to a building out in a field by itself. We opened the door, and it was a dungeon. They opened a trap door and took us down in the trap door, down a makeshift ladder, and put each one of us in a small cell to separate us until interrogation. My back was hurting from where they'd gouged me with a rifle. And I opened my parachute a little long, and I was having pain. But I sat down on a small bench, and I had a small bench to sit on, a glass of water, stale water, and a piece of black bread. I hadn't eaten anything since early that morning. So I took a bite of the bread. I didn't like it. But I knew I had to eat something or I'd get too weak. When the guard came in and put us in the cells, he had a lantern. That was the only light. And when he left and went back up through the trapdoor, it was very dark. I thought of home, and I knew that my mother was going to receive a telegram saying I was missing in action. And I didn't want her to be hurt. And I was born and raised in a Christian home. I closed my eyes and thanked God that I was still alive. I am no hero. I am only one of 17 million young men who volunteered for the war. I went where they told me to go and did what they told me to do. We took on not one, but two of the greatest armies that has ever been assembled. But I can certainly brag about the things the Lord has done for me. But I ask for neither sympathy nor praise.